So welcome to day 21 of the BAS excavation at Wickham House. So we're officially halfway through this season of excavation, and work continues apace in trench 1A. We've got Margaret and Jean. Can you explain, Jean, what you've been doing here today?
Well, we've cleared a lot of stones out of this side.
So that's a ditch you're excavating there, isn't it? The fill of a ditch.
The fill in the ditch, and we're now taking this.
So that's a bit that.
Piece out.
Okay, that's a bit that joins the two. That we're uncertain which context this belongs to, aren't we?
Sure.
So you're going to be cleaning this up.
Yeah, we're hoping to. Yeah.
And then we can start drawing that in section, I suppose, aren't we?
Yeah.
Have you got any finds today?
Not really. We've got one tiny. You'll like this, actually. You'll love this.
Have you got a magnifying glass?
Crikey. Well, you worked very hard today, so let's hope.
We've all day to get that.
Well done. I hope it was worth it. I'm sure it will be. Well done. Look forward to seeing that later. So James, there's lots of stones come out of this from this deposit that you've been working on. What do you think you've got here in trench 1B?
It's still, as we said yesterday, a little bit complicated, but we think we're a bit clearer now. If you remember, there were lots of stones through here, which we've now taken out, and there were stones slumping down here, the big one of which has literally just come out now.
Yeah.
What we think we've got is some pebbles being laid down, some bigger stones put up against those,
Yeah.
and then these stones put on top, and we think it may be a progressive rebuilding, reinforcement of some boundary that's taken place over a period of time. But stratigraphically, it's quite difficult to unpick. We're still struggling it. We did a sketch cross section to try and get our ideas in order.
Yeah.
But we think we've got an idea now. So the next thing is, there's still big stones here, they go back a bit, and we then should be left with a lump of pebbles in the middle, we think.
Brilliant. So it's starting to emerge, but any finds? Not quite sterile. What's this? Yeah, in this.
Absolutely nothing in terms of finds.
Interesting.
But interesting, the stones we're getting out, we get quite a lot of flint, but we also get these foreign stones.
Yeah, they're not from round here, are they?
This looks like a fine sandstone.
Yeah.
This, interestingly, is a flint. We've just split it.
Yeah.
We might split that one and see what sort of type of stone that is. But they're coming from somewhere, and why are they ending up being a support for a wall or a ditch?
Here in Wickham.
Yeah, they weren't just buying these in to stick in a hole.
No.
They were being used for something else and then got reused in here.
Right, so hopefully this will become clearer as we continue to tidy this up. So well done. So go over to trench 2A, which is now being extended into a large trench 2. So at this northerly end, we've got Tim, who's been just finishing off removing what has been this orange deposit on the north side of the edge of this flint, north-south aligned flint deposit that we see stretching out behind us. So Tim, what do you think you've got here?
Well, we've established a couple of things. Whereas this orangey layer is only a few centimetres thick, maybe 5 or 6 at the most. It runs all the way through here, and it probably goes underneath these big stones, but we're leaving that for now. So I'm taking out the rest of this, the orangey layer, and then we're then left with the question of whether what's underneath it is the same as what was taken out where I'm kneeling, or if there's something else going on.
Okay, well and there's no finds really coming out of here either, is there?
Yeah, one bit of slag just turned up.
That's it. Okay, so it's relatively sterile to what we've been seeing in the higher levels of stratigraphy.
Yeah. No pressure.
No, don't worry. Right, we'll move on now to the other end where we've got Terry and Barbara working away. So in this area, we're starting to lift some of the deposits of flint on one side of this trench where they appeared to be less tightly packed. So the working theory is that this is a demolition deposit, And the flints seem to be coming up relatively cleanly, Terry, aren't they? So
They are actually, yes, it's amazing. Once you get just under the edge, they lift quite easily.
yeah.
Interesting bits of pot here.
Oh, crikey. So let's have a look what's turned up here. If I didn't know, is this a rim or is it our first tegular?
I'm really not sure.
If you look at it in profile, it could be a roof tile. It's certainly thick enough. That could be quite interesting. We'll have to take a closer look at that. And then we've got some cooking pot here underneath this layer. Another bit of cooking pot from this end of the context. So that's nice. So we're starting to get posits that must have been placed on the ground before the flints covered them. So that's quite interesting. So carry on lifting those. We'll come back here and record this and take some samples later on, hopefully. In this area of trench 2, we've got Mark, Andy, and Bob have been joining up the 2 trenches, because as we can see here, heavy flint deposits at this side, but over at the other side of trench 2, we've got orange-coloured gravels. So very, very different. So what we're trying to establish here is how and where this archaeology deposits change from what we see at the south to what we see at the north. So what sort of finds have you been getting to date, guys?
Mostly CBM metal. I don't think it's very old actually. But...
It looks to be medieval or post-medieval.
Yeah, and a few small bits of iron.
Yeah, some bits of iron nail coming up. Is this
A little bit of glass.
That was quite old. That's quite interesting. Great. Well, if we can keep getting this and find this change, that'll be really interesting, and it'll add a further dimension to what we've got here. So we've got Martin in this trench. Julian this morning has established that what we had in section, we can see we've partially excavated what was the fill of a ditch, and this is what we think was the geophys image that showed high resistance down the middle, and that does a turn to the north where we have another section here of what is clearly a ditch that's been filled, and our hypothesis is that this is part of a later building built on what we still think is the remains of the Roman road. So Martin, have you got any thoughts what's going on at this end of the trench here? I can see you're busy recording.
Filling in for people who've moved elsewhere. So at the north end, we seem to have a ditch that was a good profile.
Yeah.
It goes underneath the bank there, but we've removed about 2/3 of it. It would seem that this pebble layer that you're standing on does a little bit of a slump as it goes across the ditch, and there was loose silty stuff had accumulated at the top of that slump.
Okay.
But there's over at this end, we've got this really, really, really tough, hard packed, high percentage small stones, and it's a bit like one of those sort of cobbled courtyards that they have horses on with small stones, but the stones are really quite small, and it is really, really, really tough. It's tougher than anything I came across in Silchester.
Yeah. And do you think that clay deposit, is that on top of it, or is that emerging from
I haven't tried
through
to
it?
explore that.
Okay.
Because Terry was digging here earlier. I think that's quite possible. If the clay top knob is on top of the hardcore, then it strongly suggests that the hardcore is the part of the road.
Yeah, that could well be the case. This is where we're expecting the road to be, but we haven't found a ditch on the north side, I think, because later buildings may have just destroyed what evidence there is of it.
So I think the jury's out is it's put in question these clay deposits that you've felt earlier, or we all felt earlier, was indication of the start of the road on its northern boundary.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just something which has been dumped on top, and it's this really hard pebble there underneath, which is the true indicator of where the road was.
Yeah. So the jury's still out.
Jury's still out.
So carry on with the recording, and we'll pick it up again next week and see where it takes us. Thanks, Martin.